Hey guys, it's Tom here again. So in this video, we're going to talk about differentiation. So far, what we have done? Well, we have found multiple ways for you to gather your product ideas, right? You now have a lot of product ideas. Then what we've done is we put those ideas through the product scorecard to see which of those product ideas are good or bad. Now, just because a product idea at the end is a good idea, there's still one more step, which is now to differentiate your product, making your product different than everybody else's. Why is that? Why is this important? It's basically, if you think about it, right? You go on Amazon, you type in the product or keyword. It could be golf gloves, or it could be pet harness, dog harness, whatever it might be. There are 48, usually around 50 listings on each page. So page 1, there's 48 listings. Page 2, there's 48 listings, so on and so forth. People need to make a decision on which one of those to buy. So they have to consider a few things, which Adam will later talk about. The point of differentiation is so that when people consider those things in their head, yours become a very easy choice for them to make. That is the point of differentiation. Differentiation, innovation, so that your product can stand out among the competition. That's really the only point, right? In business, every single business, doesn't matter if it's a restaurant, doesn't matter if it's Amazon business or drop shipping or Airbnb, your product needs to look different. I'll give you another quick example. So a friend of mine started an Airbnb business. He bought these 1-bedroom apartments and decided to basically put them on Airbnb. He didn't do very well. Why is that? Because 1-bedroom apartments on Airbnb, you're directly competing against hotels, which is also one bedroom or studio. The ones that do well on Airbnb are the ones, that are 3 bedrooms or big houses that have differentiation factors, that has a swimming pool in the back, maybe a jacuzzi. All these different things, if you were to go on a trip, you go on Airbnb, these are the things you look at. Does this one have a view? Does this one not have a view? So these are all the factors that people look at. Same as your product. People are thinking about this, which Adam will talk about a little bit later. So what are we going to do is we're going to cover 3 things in the next few videos. Number 1 is how to gather ideas to differentiate your product. Number 2 is how to come up with your unique differentiation. And number 3, last but not least, is how to validate and test if your idea about that differentiation is actually a good idea or not. So I'm going to pass this to Adam on why do customers buy. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Tom. So yeah, in this next videos when we talk about differentiation, it's also important to think about what is a reason that a customer buys a product in the first place. So again, you're a customer, you type something in Amazon, you see these offers, you already have a story in your head as a consumer of what you're looking for, maybe what your pain points and objections are, maybe the things and features that you care about. And so you're basically putting it through this mental checklist in milliseconds when you're scrolling on a page in Amazon. And the core elements are basically the offers that you're evaluating. So what does the title say? What's the first image look like? How many reviews do they have? What's the name of the brand? Does it feel like something I want to purchase, any brand I want to purchase from? And again, this is almost subconscious. The brain is a massive microprocessor of visual information. And so you've got to stop the customer in their tracks, get them to click your product. That's goal number 1. And then you've got to answer that story that they have in their head, those objections, those things they care about, the language that they use. And you've got to tell that really quickly with how you verbally written down how you describe your product as well as the visuals. Another key element is just to understand the drivers of why people buy things in the first place. And there's really 2 different ways that customers buy from a motivation standpoint. One is that they're in pain. They've got a problem that needs to be solved. They might actually have a physical pain that they need to be solved. And so they're looking for products that will alleviate that pain. And the second is pleasure. As human beings, we're driven by ego, right? We're in our own heads. We're the heroes of our own story. So when people are taking their disposable income and buying things for pleasure, it's typically to elevate their ego. It's to make them feel better about themselves. It's to bring them pleasure. So if you can align emotionally with that need of pleasure, and or pain, those are 2 ways to understand customer psychology. But the big point here is that you need to understand that offer is everything. It's not just your product, it's not just your differentiation, but it's how you tie that together and how you represent it, especially visually, because we're selling via e-commerce where somebody can't touch, feel, and experience the product. Now, concept here, I'll leave you with, which I think is an amazing concept. It's called the purple cow concept. Seth Godin wrote a book called The Purple Cow, literally one of the best marketing minds in the world, one of my favorites that I go to. And the whole concept of a purple cow is this. Let's imagine that you're driving through Kansas, right? Flat, agricultural. You're going to see a lot of farms. You're going to see a lot of land. You're going to see a lot of cattle on the side of the road. You're driving aimlessly. You're not really going to think about it at all. But imagine you were driving down Kansas in a field of cows. You literally saw a purple cow. Not that one was painted, but literally a cow with purple hair. You would probably pull over and be like, holy crap, did you see that, Tom? Is that a purple cow? You'd get out of your car, you'd take photos of it, you might do an Instagram story and be like, holy crap, I literally have seen a purple cow, you got to check this thing out. And that's because it's a remarkable experience that doesn't happen every day. It's a unique, different thing. It stands out as an experience in your life. We're trying to create products that are literally like purple cows. So when you're scrolling down on Amazon, even if you know specifically what you want to buy as a customer and you're seeing those things, something different that is a purple cow that makes them want to click, that makes them intrigued, and that makes them want to buy your product. So check out these preceding videos. We're going to deep dive into differentiation, how you can create your own purple cow and really stand out in a sea of other competitors that may be selling a very similar product.
Yeah, and I just want to add one more point, right? So the point is not to make everything purple, right? Like, let's say if all the water bottles on page 1 is white and black, and you're like, oh, Adam told me to put some purple cows on there. Like, that's great. Yeah. So let me go to my Chinese manufacturer and ask them if I can put some purple cows in this water bottle. But that's not the point, right? The point is you have to create something that people are willing to talk about. Yeah. It's what I call the wow factor. So I was speaking to a guy. He has a brand. He actually sells chocolate, but chocolate by itself is, chocolate. Like, we've eaten chocolate before. There's not much to talk about. So what he decided to do was position his chocolate as like sexual chocolate. So you eat this chocolate, and apparently it makes you like horny and stuff, and you want to have sex after. Anyways, I'm sorry if you're like under the age of 18 watching this, but I'm pretty sure most of us are adults. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make, I couldn't think of another example, but the point I'm trying to make here is that he's like, I want to add that wow factor. I wanted to add that purple cow concept to this chocolate so that when people are like, hey, what are you eating? Hey, did you hear about this chocolate, right? It's like this sex chocolate. So again, not saying, please don't take everything we say literally. It's this concept. Go read the book, right? Go get the book. I never read the book myself, but I've heard it's an amazing book. Seth Godin is one of like the gods of marketing. So highly recommend that resource. Check it out. And yeah, you got to put that unique factor in your product as well, so people are willing to talk about it, share on social media, so on and so forth. Hey guys, it's Tom here. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to differentiate. So earlier in the videos, we did the mom test, we did the focus group, we asked people about ideas, we asked ChatGPT to give us some ideas. And now what we want to share with you is kind of, like how to differentiate in more of a practical sense, right? So there's definitely a few ways to differentiate. There's not really just one way to go about doing this. But whatever you do, make sure you do not launch a Me Too product. And I'm going to be saying over and over and over in this course, like if there's one thing you can just tattoo on your forearms or whatever, like from this course, it will be this. Do not launch a Me Too product. This is sin number 1, and it's the only thing that you should never do in this course. So anyways, there are definitely a few different ways. So some of the ways for you to differentiate is you can have a different design, right? So for example, one of my students, his name is Daniel McGill, and he's about to sell his second brand. He sold his first brand for like $500,000. The second brand he's about to sell for like $750,000. And really all it is a different design of a dish soap. That's it. It's a dish soap dispenser, and he put a different design on it. That's it. Very, very simple. I have another student, her name is Carol, and she's done over $1 million. And she did something very similar where she literally just put some letters over her product, and that's how she differentiated. So the design element is, the aesthetic element is definitely a way for you to differentiate. So we also interviewed one of my friends, her name was Tanya, and she launched a silicone ring company. Now, silicone rings is super competitive on Amazon, as I'm sure because you're laughing about that. Like every single year, there's one product that kind of blows up. And in 2015, it was silicone rings. Everybody was selling silicone rings. But she is the designer. She came from like a fashion world. So she's like, I don't want to just launch a silicone ring. I want to make them pretty. That's all she did. She took the silicone rings, made them all pretty, put different designs on them. marked it up to a premium price point where she was kind of, again, having that purple cow effect, having that blue ocean effect. Everybody else was launching these black generic rings, and everybody had to reduce their prices while she was able to capture the high end of the market and basically launch a premium brand. And now she's doing 7 figures a year selling silicone rings. So think about the design of something. Another place for you to get really good inspiration for designs is Etsy. So give you guys another example, right? So I had two students. They launched the same product, which were coasters, like coasters for your cups. One of them, her name's Emily. She launched these coasters that were so beautifully done. They're like marble, they're gold and white. It just looked beautiful. And she actually didn't even launch them properly, but she was generating $30,000 a month in sales just in the first few months because she had a beautiful design of her product. And again, no one else was selling this on Amazon. That's the main point. And I had these other set of students is they launched these coasters with like animal designs on them. I'm talking about a giraffe. I'm talking about a rhino. So it's like a very weird design for coasters. Like who wants a coaster with like a rhino? I just think it's like such a random idea, right? So they tried everything and it didn't work so well. So it's the exact same product, right? Coasters, but because the design is different, Emily was able to actually build a very successful business within those few months just on Amazon. So another place for you to get ideas of beautifully designed products is actually on Etsy. So maybe some of you have done the 20 unit challenge already, so you're familiar with this. But let's say you want to launch dog collars or dog leashes or cups or whatever it might be, right? The brand that you want to build. Go on Etsy, type that in, and get some design inspirations that way. I think you're going to find some amazing ones. Later on in the branding section, we're going to teach you something called Midjourney. That's going to be an absolute game changer. Is actually using AI to create these different designs for you. And it's stunning. So I think you're going to be really excited about that. Number 2 are features. So features are basically, recently I saw a ad on Kickstarter, and it was about a water bottle, very similar to this, except on the top of the water bottle, they can open the cap and there was a magnet so that you can put your phone on it. Like you have a magnet strip on your phone and you can slap on it. So it's like additional feature. I think it's kind of like, it's kind of weird, but that's definitely an additional feature, right? Swiss Army knife, for example. There are so many different features on that knife. And I feel like if you are going to launch a product, you can always expand the feature list to make sure other people don't have those features to make it more convenient for your customers. Then those are obviously good ways to differentiate as well. Better functionality, very similar to feature as well. Ways for you to basically just add more function to your actual product so you can differentiate among the marketplace.
So riffing off what Tom talked about, which was aesthetic design, functions, and really unique features, I'm just going to list some of the easier ones to implement. So these aren't necessarily going to be game-changing differentiations, but these are other ways that you can stand out and make your product unique. One is just quantity, right? Again, easy to replicate, but sometimes people either have a smaller product or maybe you need to make a bigger one or you add 2. But changing the actual number or quantity that's associated with the product is going to have higher perceived value. The second is visual quality. Sometimes you literally can just use a 3D rendering, which we're going to teach you in the listing course, or you can have better photography, or you can have better lighting, or you can bring in lifestyle photos with humans that make your product stand out. Again, we're going to get into all of the ways you can visually differentiate, but just looking different can sometimes give you enough differentiation against the competition. Other ways I'm just going to rifle off real quick here are brand, photography, packaging, bundling your product, using social proof and testimonials and the videos that you incorporate into your listing. Country of origin, sometimes made in the US or Canada or Australia or New Zealand, can be really impactful. I've seen a brand that actually had a wool from New Zealand and it stood out against a lot of the other foreign made stuff from Asia on Amazon. It can be colors that pop differently or that are new to market. It could be bonuses that are added to the product. Could be just the story and how you wrap and tell the story about your product and brand, and it could be things like size. So these are a number of ideas that you can riff off of. One other thing I would say here too is there's something that's called too much differentiation. And I've seen this happen sometimes where people change the size of the product, they add a bundle, they change the color, and they do 3 or 4 things at once with the goal of standing out. And while they might have stood out, first thing they've done is they've added a lot of cost, which makes it very, very difficult to price your product properly. And if you can't price your offer properly, it's very difficult to convert. The other thing is you can confuse customers. Customers want a very simple, easy to understand in milliseconds concept. So you've got to be able to differentiate your product, but in a way that doesn't add a lot of cost and in a way that doesn't confuse the customer.
Look, at the end of the day, like when you sell a product on Amazon, right, there are big changes you can make. And when you make those big changes, it's harder for people to compete with you, right? There's also easy things you can make, right? But the easy things that you adjust, those are very easy to be replicated by your competitors. So there is that balance. Like, don't go hardcore mode. Like, I got to make my product super unique. Again, remember what we said about 70, 80% is good enough. But at the same time, please do not email us. And when we ask you why did you choose this product, you said, oh, it's a better quality and a better customer service. I've heard that so many times, and those are not competitive advantages. And then Adam also brought up a good point. Like, the more you change about your product, sometimes it can cost you more to source this product from China. And let's say if everybody on page 1 sells their product for $15, and because you added all these functionalities and all these designs, now you have to sell your product for $40 on Amazon or $30 on Amazon. You see the wide gap of the price point. Like, everybody sells for 15, yours sells for 30. Just so you understand, the higher you price your product, the less amount of people will actually buy it, right? So there is a good risk of charging something super high premium pricing because you have to, due to the fact that you added so much differentiation. I think a lot of folks are very logical and they're not very creative. So when it comes to differentiating the product, they have a very hard time doing it. This is all just about inspiration. That's why I think Etsy is such a great resource. Just go on Etsy.com, type in the product, and start looking around. Reading the customer reviews, such a powerful way of, finding what customers needs. And then those are all clues for you to actually solve your customers' pain points. I would say for me, those are probably the 2 most powerful ones. Is there anything you want to add on?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is like, don't overcomplicate it or make it more serious than it needs to be. Differentiation sometimes is simple, and sometimes simple wins. So don't feel like you've got to create this earth-shattering way and you get into your heads and you're trying to think like an engineer, and like sometimes it's literally just a very simple little tweak that can visually stand out when someone's shopping on Amazon. So don't put too much pressure, don't take it too seriously. It's a loose process. Any process that's creative needs to be loose and fun. So get into that space that's low pressure, and ideas will come, and you'll find some inspiration.
So anyways, these are some of the ways that you can differentiate your product. It is so important. Make sure you do a good job. Make sure you survey people. Make sure you follow this course to a T, and we'll see you in the next video.
All right, so this video is all about using ChatGPT and reviews for existing products that you may be evaluating on Amazon to identify some ways that you can improve, differentiate, and ultimately stand out with what you're looking to develop. So the example we're going to do just over the shoulder here is a cat water drinking fountain. So I guess sometimes cats don't like drinking out of bottles. So there's a new product concept that's come out here in the last couple of years, which is a fountain that cats can drink out of. So this particular listing here, what you're basically going to want to do is step number 1 is we're going to want to cultivate and scrape all the reviews that this product has. And to do so, we're going to use the Helium 10 Chrome extension. So from any listing that you want to analyze the reviews for differentiation ideas, you're going to go to that listing, you're going to click on the Helium 10 extension, and you'll notice a button here at the bottom that says Review Insights. We're going to click on that. And then it's going to pull up all of the different reviews that exist for that particular product. You'll also see here that there's an Export Reviews button. We're just going to click on that, and it's going to download a CSV file with all of those things listed. So I've gone ahead and I've imported this already into Google Sheets. This is what it's going to look like when you import that into Google Sheets. First thing we're going to want to do is actually set up a filter so that we can kind of scrub some of the stuff a little bit. So for this, we're just going to go to Data and then Create Filter, and it's going to give us that drop down. And really, to get ideas to differentiate, we're probably going to want to look at the negative reviews first and just see what those look like. So I'm going to go here to this ratings tab and just go sort A to Z. So it's going to give me all of the 1-star reviews down. Now, what we're going to do, because ChatGPT, you can't dump everything in there. There is a character limit. So we probably want to grab like the first 10 or so here, and we can do this in batches and just see if it has different results. But oftentimes you get pretty good indication even from looking at 10 to 15 reviews. So you're going to copy that from the body tab, which is basically the written review, copy that. And then we're going to head over to ChatGPT. So this is the prompt that we're going to use for this analysis, and we're going to leave a link to this Google Doc down below so you can literally copy and paste this. But we basically want to say, what are the top 5 phrases people use to describe this product? What are the top 5 things people liked about this product? What are the top 5 things people disliked about this product? What are the top 5 desired improvements? And then add any other insights that may be valuable. We also added here, summarize the customer avatar, just to get an idea of who's actually buying this product. And then we literally just type in list of reviews, and then we copy in that 10 to 15 review section and paste that in and hit go. So we've done that here in ChatGPT, and it's been really cool to see what spits out of this. It says, based on the reviews, here is a summary of the product. So it's really cool what it came up with. So at first it says the top 5 phrases people use to describe this product. Again, because we're looking at negative reviews here, it's going to tell us the things that they disliked about it. So number 1 was mold. Number 2 is filters. Number 3 is replacement parts. 4 is motor pump stop working, and 5 is leaking. In a similar vein here, the top 5 things people disliked about this product: mold on the filters need to be replaced every 2 weeks, motor pump stop working after a short period, product leaks, customer service is poor. Top 5 desired improvements: longer lasting filters, better quality control to prevent mold and hair getting stuck in the product, better pump and motor, removable base for easy cleaning, and better customer service. And then here's some other insights that ChatGPT found. Some people found the product difficult to clean and had to spend a lot of time on it. The product was marketed towards cat owners, and some people had concerns about the product's reliability. So we've got a pretty good, insights here that we could definitely leverage if we were going to make our own cat drinking fountain, but make it better. Couple things that stood out here. Is there a way for us to make it so it doesn't accumulate mold? Is there something in a different material other than plastic? A different shape of how the water flows through? Are there some functional engineering improvements that we can work with a factory on to prevent the mold from happening? We've got removable base that's easier to clean. That could be an easy thing that we can implement into our product design. Is there a way for us to improve the filtration system, or maybe make it so you don't have to replace the filters as long? Again, within a matter of 2 minutes here, we have some pretty solid ideas that we could take on a really big growing category on Amazon, stand out, and do it differently. Again, those prompts will be down below, as well as the procedure on how you can actually use this tool to scrape reviews from Helium 10 and leverage ChatGPT.
So there's a really, really good book called The Mom Test by Rob Fitzpatrick. And I highly recommend for you to go on Amazon to pick it up right now. This is actually recommended by people in Silicon Valley before they launch a product or a business. They read this book, they take the learnings from this book, they formulate ideas, and then they implement that to their business. So I highly recommend for you guys to read this. According to the Mom Test, some of the right questions to ask during customer interviews are those that focus on the customer's problems and needs, rather than on the problem or solution being offered. So instead of saying, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Don't ask something like that, right? Ask a more open-ended question about their specific needs or problems. So some of these can be, can you tell me about a time when you experienced this problem? So again, if you launch a dog-related brand and you launch a dog harness, tell me about a time that you weren't happy about, your dog harness, or tell me about a time where your dog harness, you feel like there's a better way to improve it. Tell me about a time that it wasn't very convenient for you to put it on. Something like that, right? How do you currently handle this situation or problem? What's the hardest part about this dealing with this problem or need? So anyway, we'll put all the questions down below, but this is a quick summary of the book. Highly recommend for you guys to read it, because this will actually help you to generate a lot more ideas. It will start turning your wheels in terms of, having a lot more creative solutions. And I just think it's a fantastic book that every single entrepreneur needs to read. So make sure you go get that book, and then also go ask dog owners or whoever your target market is these set of questions to get some responses back. All right, so let's say that you want to launch a dog-related product, right? You love your dog and you want to launch a dog-related brand. So you found a product that fits the product scorecard, but Tom and Adam says you have to differentiate. So you will, because you listen to us, right? So how are you going to approach that? Well, There's a few ways, but in this video, what we want to show you is a survey. So if you are launching a dog-related brand, go up to 10 to 15 dog owners and ask them the following questions. How likely are you to purchase a dog product in the next 6 months? What are the top 1 to 3 features that you look for in, don't say a dog product, because like, what is that product? Maybe a harness. Maybe you want to launch a dog, jacket or whatever it might be. What are the 1 to 3 features? Would you be interested in this offering, unique selling proposition, whatever that might be? So we included a bunch of questions below. Print these out, go ask dog owners about these questions because they will give you some fantastic ideas, because ultimately that is going to be who you're selling the product to. That is going to be who's actually going to hand over the hard-earned dollars for your product. So their opinion, their advice is best suited for your business. If you are launching a dog product, don't ask a cat owner what they want. Don't ask someone who doesn't have a dog what they want. If you're launching a baby brand, do not go up to a 21-year-old frat bro and ask them what they want in a baby. They don't know, right? They're not the target market. So what I'm trying to say is if you are launching a product for a specific person, find that person times 15, right? And then ask those people. That's called target market in the marketing world. Again, one more example. If you're launching a, cooking utensil or something like that, go ask people who enjoys cooking. Those are the people that you need to listen to. So what are some ways for you to gather a survey? Well, you can definitely in person ask your family, ask your friends, ask your coworkers, right? Through Facebook polls. So you have tons of Facebook friends that you haven't spoken in a long time. Well, use that, right? Number 3, social media conversions like TikTok or IG. So you have a bunch of Instagram followers or TikTokers, whatever it might be. You can ask them. You can use this website called pigfoo.com. And that's a pretty cool website. I recommend everybody to check that out as well. And then SurveyMonkey as well. So go ahead, ask these people about your product idea, what they want, and then that's how you're going to generate a lot of differentiation ideas.
Yeah, and Tom, I would just say, like, as an anchor point, just to think about this too, is we're asking for feedback to help us improve. So I think it's important to stage this in both written form and or if you're talking to people in person, like, just literally say, I'm not asking you to tell me what you think I want to hear. I want your real opinion. Yeah. So you got to open the door for people to give critical, direct feedback when you're posing these questions. But all these methods, it's a fantastic way to uncover things that you, as you're living and breathing in this product idea for a long time, it'll give you perspective and it'll give you insights.
Yeah. And I would say like this survey is so that you can generate ideas for the differentiation. This is not a survey where you already generated ideas, then you're going to up to people to validate. That's for later. That's for a later video. So,
all right, so you've got all these ideas for how to differentiate your product. Maybe you started to work with your factory on what it's going to cost and how you may actually execute it from a product development standpoint. But something that's really important, and a lot of people frankly don't do it because it might be uncomfortable, is you got to actually get real world feedback from customer avatars that may buy your product. And oftentimes, again, it's uncomfortable to ask somebody for help or to ask them a question or to walk up to a stranger in public or to ask somebody in a Facebook group. But part of entrepreneurship is doing things that you're uncomfortable with for the end outcome that you're looking for. So some ways that you can actually validate your product with your customer archetype or your customer avatar are literally just to find them wherever you live. So if you're selling a dog product, go to the dog park and talk to people that are walking dogs or that have dogs and ask them like, hey, this is a prototype of a product I'm developing. I see that you've got a golden retriever, which is one of the dogs that we're actually focused on with this brand. Can you just give me your honest feedback? It could literally be things you don't like. In fact, I want to hear that, but I want your honest feedback. Here's the product. Tom had an example with dog supplements. Maybe you can tell that story on what that experience was.
Yeah, I was at a dog park and the lady just came up to me and was like, hey, I'm launching this dog plant-based brand. Can I give your dog a treat? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then I was like, oh, wow, this is, he loves it. And I was asking her about the business. I was like, oh, why plant-based? And she's like, well, what's important to you? So it was a really good discussion and she was getting a lot of feedback from me as well. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and like an example I use in the golf space, if I'm coming up with a new golf product, go to the damn golf course and there's people after their rounds having a beer with their buddies, 4 of them. Go say, hey, I'll buy you a pitcher of beer if you guys can give me 15 minutes of your time. But put yourself out of your comfort zone, do it in person. Some other ways that you can do this too are to go into a site called reddit.com. There's communities within reddit.com, and we'll post a link down below. They're called subreddits. There's some on golf, there's some on dogs, there's some on anything you can think of.
Anything you can think of. There's communities of anything and everything.
Yeah, and you can literally create a post in there and just be like, hey, I'm XYZ, I'm launching a new business.
Yeah.
I want to get your honest feedback on this, and you'll get that feedback.
I would say that's like, honestly, guys, do that. It's so incredible, people on Reddit, because I'm in a lot of Reddit communities. And I've seen posts like this where people actually ask for public feedback. Like, hey, you know, I'm working 9 to 5. I really want to escape that. And I want to launch a business, or this is my problem. You got to have a good story behind it. And people are more than willing to actually help you. And you know, everybody in that group is actually there because they belong in that community, whether it's dogs or cats or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And then there's Facebook groups too. If you just do a search on Facebook for groups related to your niche, you can find those. Go into those private groups and make posts as well. So I think the point here is that it's going to feel weird. You're not going to want to do this. It's going to be uncomfortable.
But you have to.
But you have to. And after you do it, it's not that big of a deal. It's one of those things like the more time you spend in your head about it, it's actually not that hard. And after you do this, I think that you'd find some really profound insights that will make your product better. And what would you rather do? Spend $10,000 on your first production run and miss the mark? Or have a couple uncomfortable conversations that really could help elevate your product and fine tune before you go to production.
Yeah, and then one more thing I'll add as well, a real life example, is Christina is launching a brand called Super Major Snacks. It's a basically, you know, no sugar, there's dairy-free type of chocolate. So what she did was she used Facebook ads, which we'll teach you later on in the course, but I just want to share this with you. She used Facebook ads to actually target people on Facebook who likes that type of stuff, funnel them into a Facebook group. So she created her own Facebook group, and then she used that Facebook group as a beta group. So she asked questions. Whenever she got samples, she will send it to everybody in the Facebook group. They give her feedback. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like that. Then she actually used the feedback to make the product better. And I think it's so important for you to actually get customer feedback, because ultimately those are the ones that are giving you money, and those are people that are going to be raving fans of your brand. And the thing about business is that you can always change your product down the road. It's not like, you know, I launched this product and I'm stuck with this product. No. You can call your manufacturer, be like, hey, on the second run, can you make this a little bit different? Can you make that a little bit different? So I think that's super important for you guys to do. Another way for you to validate your products is attending the coaching calls. You can also put it in our Facebook group. There's thousands of students. We're all willing to help you out. Come on the coaching calls, ask us questions. If you're a VIP or Diamond student, ask your advisors. And another question I think people have is like, hey, you know, I don't have the product yet. How can I talk to people about it? Well, you can describe to people what the product is. You can use something called 3D render to kind of draw up what a product is. It's like a prototype. So yeah, there's, you know, different ways, but I think even just by describing the product, what it could look like, is a good initial step. And then later on, when we teach you how to get the samples, you want to make sure you validate that as well. So now you have a physical sample. You can use that physical sample to walk up to people and ask them to get their feedback as well.
Hi everybody, it's Todd here with the FBA Masterclass. You know, with the economy adjusting, everyone in business is having to adapt. And there is 2 metrics that Amazon sellers are paying attention to now more than ever. So I wanted to take a moment to walk you through what AOV and LTV are and how they impact your business. AOV, or average order value, is basically a measure of the money that people are spending with you on any particular order or a series of orders within a short period of time. The idea here is that if they're going to spend money with you, it costs you a bunch of money to get them in as a consumer. So if you can get them to raise that value when they purchase, you're going to make more money overall. Let's take a look at a real example of order value. So on the left here, we have a lip balm. It's got a very low $4 selling price. So if I was to buy 100 of those units, our order value would be $400 in that particular case. On the right, we have a slightly more expensive lip balm, $27 selling price. If I bought one of them, my order value would be $27. If I bought 3 of them, for instance, my order value would be $81. So the average order value is therefore going to be the order value that you're having over the course of all of the orders that you get as a seller. Now let's look at another example, but this time we're going to introduce costs. So on the example on the left, we have another lip balm. This one is a $10 selling price. We're going to call this our lower AOV example. Your cost of goods sold, which is the cost to actually purchase the goods that you're going to sell, is about $3 in this case. Your fees, we'll estimate them out at about $4, and the result would be about $3 in profit. So if you were selling 10 of these a day, times the $3 in profit, you'd have about $30 of profit a day. In the example on the right, though, we'll start to bump up to a higher AOV again. We've got an example of a skincare cream that's in the $40 price range. This time, we're going to have a higher cost of goods sold, so higher cost to buy the actual good or make it. The fees are going to be a little bit higher in this case because it's a percentage of our selling price usually. So a $10 fee. The result is a $15 profit. So if we're selling 10 of those a day, we're going to have times the $15 in profit each day is about $150 in profit. So from a high level view of the price points that you might consider when launching a product is you're going to have subtle differences between those lower price points and the higher price points. On the lower side, somewhere in the $20 to $50 range, you're going to have a more approachable cost of goods sold, i.e. it's cheaper to get into the game, and this does lower your initial risk. However, because there's that lower barrier to entry, you're going to see more competition, and you're not going to make as much money on each sale. For the higher price point items or those higher AOV items, you're going to have a higher cost of goods sold, which means it's more expensive upfront costs. Therefore, there's going to be higher dollar risk initially as well. However, because there's a higher barrier to entry, you're going to have a lower amount of competition in that space. And you're also probably going to be able to focus a little bit more on differentiation from those competitors. So there's a trade-off here. So overall, I would say avoid getting into products that are lower than $20 where it becomes really difficult to make a profit. If you have a budget and risk tolerance that will allow you to get into the higher AOV items, $50 and up, then that is a great strategy. And if not, then it might be best to stay in that $20 to $50 range. A couple other ways that some companies can go about driving an increase in AOV, I'll give you a couple more examples, is upsells. If you've ever bought a car, we only replace our cars maybe, every 7 years or something like that. So if you're replacing your car and you only do it every so often, then every single time you go in, they're going to want to maximize the order value that you are spending on them that day. So cars do this quite often with additional upgrades, premium trade-up options, all of that. So as a seller on Amazon, could you have, for instance, a base level item and an upsell item for people that want to spend more? They want a higher quality. They want better quality parts, better looking parts, etc. And you can kind of hit both of those markets. And another classic example could be you may also you've seen these on websites 1,000 times, I'm sure. It's when people are trying to say, hey, you seem to like this item. You might also like this book from the same author, this book from the same genre. On Amazon, they use a feature called frequently bought together. And so this is a place where they've leveraged that strategy to try to get you to buy similar items that people seem to like together. You can do this somewhat and have control over it if you launch a brand that has multiple items that target the same consumer and you have them advertised on your own brand store. Then you can drive people to your brand store where they might be interested in purchasing more than one. You can also do things like bundles or virtual bundles that basically allow you to group these items together virtually. Off of Amazon, a little bit more freedom in how you approach this. You can do all sorts of upsells and cross-sells, bundles. You can even use retargeting strategies to sell something to them one day and then bring them back the next day for a special deal on this other item they might also like. So if that's AOV, let's talk about the next one, LTV. LTV is a measure of the average revenue that a customer will generate for you throughout the lifespan of being your customer. So why this is important is because while AOV might be for one purchase, we can also try to increase the number of purchases that they make with us. So we're less concerned about how we actually calculate this at this time. I just want you to conceptually really dial in on these concepts and how you might be able to grow them. So we're thinking directionally, don't get stuck in calculating them. Here's the traditional model on Amazon. You've got an existing Amazon customer. They realize they have a problem, so they go to Amazon, they search for some keyword, they find your brand, hopefully they buy your brand, and then about 1 to 2% of them are going to leave a review. That is a one-times model, and the only way to grow that business is to increase your AOV. But if you look at a high LTV model, what if when they bought your brand, you had some strategy in place that could turn them and make them buy 2 times, 3 times over the life of them buying from you? This is why LTV can be powerful. Let's look at some examples of how we could actually pull this off. Procter & Gamble has been doing this forever. Most of the products that they launch are focused on this idea of consumables, which means that you'll buy something from them once and then you're gonna come back again. A lot of times this will show up in, for instance, a subscribe and save model, where on Amazon you might see the option to buy it again in 3 months. And for doing that, you'll get a little bit of a savings. And that savings means that they can save some money and you don't have to pay all that money on PPC to get them back as a customer again the next time. There's things like retargeting ads, where you could retarget the consumer so that they're coming back to your listing a couple months later in case they might be interested in that again. You can also do things like building your own email lists or getting followers on social media so that you can remind them that you exist, and so you might be able to get them to come back and buy from you again in the future. Refills and replacements is another great model. A lot of big companies use this, and they're really smart because the big ones will actually do it using proprietary parts, meaning that, for instance, if you were to buy a coffee machine like this Virtuo Pop, then they're going to give you a really low price on that starter kit that gets you set up so that you can make coffee, but they're hoping to make up for that in the refills. So basically, they're low margin entry into the space, or basically they're not charging you much for that entry, but on the coffee pods themselves, that's where they start to make money on you over time. Pez is a classic example as well. You'll have seen this all over, and some smaller businesses can leverage this as well. Modular and expandable is a really approachable way to increase your LTV. And what this is if you have a product, this lighting tool, for example, in this light, you can patch them together in different ways, make different shapes. And not only that, it's modular, which means you can add to it. You could buy a second kit and clip it right onto the first one and expand into bigger and more interesting shapes. So if you can make your product modular, then it's going to have that option for people to come back and buy you again in the future, or just buy more than one item on that first sale. The other option is kind of expandable sets. Classic with board games. They'll give you one kit that is kind of the starter setup, but then they'll add expansions. So if you're enjoying playing their game, people might come back and buy another expansion to add some variety to that previous version. All of these are great tools to kind of expand that ability to grow LTV. Subscriptions is classic. This might be a little bit more for the tech space, but nonetheless, I watched a video recently that laid out how Starlink actually loses money on their roaming hardware. Now, originally it was costing them about $3,000 apparently for them to give this item to you, which they were selling to you for somewhere between, I think it was like $600 to $800 at the time. They've been able to bring that cost down with scaling up over time. So somewhere like $1,250, I think is the number I was quoted. But what it means is that they're still selling it at a loss, and they're only doing that because they know that they're going to make up with it with subscriptions later on. You've seen this a lot. Subscriptions are all over the place right now. And this is one way that companies are kind of guaranteeing that they'll have some income down the line, since it costs so much to get that initial consumer on that first conversion. Giftability. This is a really powerful one for a lot of Amazon sellers, and I've seen it succeed with many, but there's some trade-offs. So first of all, you have to have a product that is highly relevant to your consumer. It's highly loved, like a lot of great ratings, and packaged beautifully. Therefore, if you can win over that consumer and they love the product, they might come back and buy something that they want to give to their family. So they might come back and buy 3 of them. And I've had this happen to myself as well. The trade-off is that you have to make sure they're really wowed. So you have to invest a little bit more in that packaging and in that experience. But the other downfall is that if you target giftability as your only strategy, then you might face seasonality issues. So like Father's Day gifts or Mother's Day gifts. It's really hard to compete in those seasonality spaces, and then you're not going to sell for the rest of the year. So you'd want it to be a product that is going to sell well all the time, but is also highly giftable, and then you can lean on that strategy. And of course, one that we've seen quite often is product upgrades. So for some products, you might be able to get people to come back and repurchase you again when they want to replace it or because they want new and expanded features, for instance. So this J9, for instance, has 3 pretty little icons at the bottom, whereas the J7 only has 2 icons. So somebody looking to expand their experience with this product or get a new replacement might be willing to spend more on that AOV to get this new replacement. And in that process, they're expanding both AOV and LTV. So one thing you might have noticed here is that as you look to expand AOV and LTV, they are highly linked. So if you're able to get a higher average order value, you're likely to get a higher LTV as well. But their strategies are clearly different in different ways and different situations. So I want you to think of this in action as you go forward. When you're exploring for product research, take the time to step back and ideate how you may be able to expand the AOV or LTV or both for the products that you're considering, because using this kind of ideation strategy may bring in new, unique ideas that could help you break out in the space that you might not have otherwise considered. So I'm hoping AOV and LTV help you out. Thank you so much.